Well, hi everybody. Thank you for waiting so patiently for me. I blame it all on me. I've been having a long week, and then when you mix up times and then try to relax for a second, and then you forget about the specific times of life. There you go. This is exactly what happened. I own it. I mean, this is something that it should happen to me all the time. It happened to me all the time. I try to be best for my podcast, but anyway, this is UX and Tame. I'm Juliet. I'm super excited for another Pride edition. As you know, it's June, and we are celebrating the community that I'm part of, and I make sure that I'm bringing a lot of different studies, different point of views, and a little bit of diversity point of views from tech and UX. So I'm super excited for whoever is waiting there for me. Thank you so much. But let's bring our guest. I'm super excited because April is cooking as we're doing this. That I feel like it's
Hi.
fantastic. I feel like we cannot never plan it as best as this. So, um, hi April, thank you so much.
Hi, Juliet. No worries. Happy to join you today
Yes.
at
Um,
whatever time.
at whatever time. Yes. I mean, it was just an hour difference. Anyway, that's the good thing about online and virtual, that we can always pop in and talk about stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if it was an hour ago, I would have been trying to look cute at my desk, and now I am making pesto. So here I am in my kitchen
I
with
love
a
it.
bunch of tiny pistachios.
I feel like definitely we can talk about your pesto, but why don't we tell people who's April?
Wow, who is April? April is I am a oh gosh, what a big question. Um, I am a sweet little neurodivergent queerdo who loves food and loves connecting with people. I live in Philadelphia. I use they or she pronouns. I used to work in nonprofits as a social worker, and just recently switched over to the UX field. And so I'm a new baby here in this field, looking for my first full-time gig and just getting experience where I can.
Love it. And I'm going to skip the next question because I want to know about your pesto and your pasta. So, what are you having for dinner tonight?
Ah, great. Well, I am making pistachio pesto because my really, really wonderful friend Eva shared some basil from her backyard garden. Just a nice, tiny little South Philadelphia row home backyard garden. And I love pistachio pesto specifically. So instead of pine nuts, I like pistachios. It's more green. They taste delicious. And anyway, why not? So I'll probably just make some pasta and maybe some vegan meatballs or something like that.
That's so good. I mean, these are we even talking about
This
graphic design today? Because I feel like I
stuff.
like the recipe better. Um, but did you know what you wanted to do when you were little and you were growing up?
Well, I have another food related anecdote. I loved pizza so much that I told my family that I wanted to deliver pizza. I wanted to be a pizza delivery person because I was sure that that meant I could eat more pizza all day long at the job. I learned that that was not true, and people would expect, whole pizzas to be delivered and not missing slices. And so, I don't know, I guess as I got a little bit older, as a high schooler, really totally sure about myself and what I wanted. Um, all my friends knew what they wanted to do, and all I knew I wanted to do was help people. I didn't really know anything other than that. I wanted to help people. I learned about social work as a career option and was like, okay, I'll try that out. And I went down that path. And to be honest, I never really, being raised as a femme person, um, in the space and area I was in, I wasn't really encouraged to try out tech or anything else. And I had no idea that, user experience or human centered design was a thing. So that wasn't on my radar. And so I just went into a more like traditional, I also grew up in a very conservative Christian home. So doing something like social work is like just, very much a mission driven kind of positive career to go down. Make no money, serve everybody, and be an uninformed white person who doesn't know about anything. So.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, I love the pizza. I mean, I feel like this could be still my dream. I definitely I will eat pizza all day, and yes. Then I didn't know about your background as the Christianity. I feel like me as living in Colombia, well, we are really Catholics, and then after that, I moved into Christianity,
Yeah.
and I even went to high school for 3 years in a Christian school. So I
Uh-huh.
was hardcore Christian at one point.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
It's the same time in there.
So I know a little bit about now what you went into social work, but what kind of work were you doing when you were doing this?
Yeah, I worked at a few different nonprofits. One spot was a family shelter for children and families who were, housing displaced or were trying to get on the list for public housing and housing subsidies, which was just like a horrendously long list that was like 10 plus years for public housing. I also worked with immigrants and refugees. So I worked with folks as like, picked them up from the airport as they arrived in this country for the first time and brought them to welfare and the Social Security office the next day to get their services started and showed them how to get to the hospital and how to use the subway that I was just learning how to use myself. Honestly, I did get a couple people lost. This is before I had a smartphone, and I very quickly was like, okay, I need a smartphone. I can no longer just print out Google Maps and figure this out. So I transitioned.
We did it for a long time, just printing maps, not even printing. Yes, because I mean, having a printer is expensive, and printers are expensive. So I remember just writing down all this.
Yes.
Turn left, turn right. It's like if I will miss one of those, I will be totally lost. I don't know how I'll survive without Google Maps for my whole life, pretty much.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I did have a little notebook I carried around, and there was a time that I was writing out directions of which street. The worst, I think the most embarrassing time was when I was standing on this one street corner waiting for the trolley. And in Philly, there's a lot of underground trolleys in certain parts of the city, but they go above ground in other parts. And so I had me and this new family standing on the street corner by the sign for the trolley, unaware that we were standing right in front of steps to lead below ground where we were supposed to get on the trolley. And I just had us waiting for like 30 minutes, being like, I don't know why the trolley's not coming. The buses are passing. The sign's right here. What am I missing? It's fine. We all learned a valuable lesson that day.
Definitely. I mean, that's a great way to get lost with someone that knows the city and can speak the language, even though you were lost too. But I feel like that was really good. What do you think that have the most impact for you when you were doing this kind of work?
Can you say more? What do you mean by impact?
Yeah, like because I imagine that you got the chance to see a lot of or hear a lot of stories and see a lot of stories. So
yeah,
what kind of impact those had in your life? Maybe that's what I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up in a really small, conservative, rural, like white homogenous area. And so just going out to school in the Philly suburbs was the first time I was exposed to just diversity. And that was still a pretty predominantly white school. And so then coming into the city and working with folks from so many different backgrounds with a lot of different experiences than what I was used to growing up was really eye-opening, of course. And I mean, I am definitely somebody, I love learning. I love getting to know other people. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the T shape of knowledge or whatever. I always misexplain this, but it's like, maybe everyone has a broad, shallow range of knowledge, but there's certain things they have a really deep understanding of. I, for so long, just didn't think I had any niches or didn't know what my talent or special interests were. But I think people are the thing that I'm most interested in. So if you are interested in D&D or astrology or cooking or whatever, then I will be interested in that thing because you are interested in it and I'm interested in you. And so you are the thing I want to know the most about. So I've always been really interested and curious about learning other people's experiences and cultures and hearing stories. I think narrative is really important to me. So I just got to know so much more outside of my tiny reality that I'd grown up in. And that was, I think, really impactful to, how I understood myself, how I live my life, how I interact with the community around me.
I love it. Yes. And I mean, I feel like I lived in Colombia for so long, and so I was part of the minority, and everybody around me kind of looked the same, and we were taught the same. But when I moved to, or I had the chance to live a little bit in US, in New Jersey. And then when you start seeing that you are not the bigger group, yes, that you don't have that much power for the things that you said, so you start being in the older side. And then I had the chance to live in Barcelona too, and then it's like, then that experience of you being from South America and you in Spain, you just start being all these changes and how community and how people interact with you. I feel like that's super interesting. And I mean,
I was really lucky. In undergrad, I got to go study abroad in Thailand. So that was my first experience being in the minority. And of course, as a white person, I still was quite idolized, I guess, my hair is dyed, but I'm a redhead usually. So having very pale skin and red hair were very rare things. But it was so, it was a really great experience. I think everyone should travel and go to different places and experience new things. But to be okay, my language is not the language everyone speaks. My religion is not the religion everyone practices. My cultures are not I had to learn to take off my shoes everywhere I go, learned how to be respectful at a temple, learned how to let my host mom hold my hand crossing the street, even though I was an adult, but learned what was really beautiful and meaningful and about that. So,
Love it. Yes. Okay. So when did you end up saying, okay, that's it. I cannot keep doing social work?
It was a few years into working as a social worker, as a case manager. That's what we call it. And so I was working with either individuals or families to help them, we call it service planning, which is a different meaning in UX, but basically talking through what are the needs, what are the issues they're experiencing, and how do we want to break up their goals to adjust some of those things, whether those are around employment or housing or the kids' education or whatever. So I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I had worked at a few different nonprofits, and I just, about a year into each place, realized how frustrated I was with the systems. It didn't really matter how many people I worked with. Everyone was experiencing the same major core issues across the board. And so I think I was just this isn't maybe I'm trying to help this one family make a little difference in their life, but this is a bigger issue that continues for so many people, and this is not really making a dent in that. And it was actually in 2016 when Trump got elected for the first time that I say first time.
Yes, what do you mean?
Sorry, it was just, listen, his presidency was such a long 4 years. I did not mean to speak anything into being. But when Trump was elected, I was just oh gosh, I really need to do something different. And I'd already been thinking about going back to grad school to look at the macro side of social work, which involves community organizing and research and looking at public policy. So I was ready to start looking at a different framework for the issues I was seeing repeated over and over. So I went back to school for that, and that's another story of burnout later on about that
But
work.
yeah, so what did you go to school for, and what did you ended up doing?
I went to school for my MSW, which is the Masters of Social Work. Some people can do a clinical track, which is like to become a therapist, and I was in the minority and chose the macro side, which because I wanted to study. Actually, I really wanted to like study policy, and I thought I wanted to get a job at the city maybe and like impact some of the policy decisions and funding for these nonprofits that I'd been working with. I ended up getting into community organizing work, which is, working with, as we call them, users, but working with community members and listening to like what are their needs, what is like their biggest concerns, what's impacting them, what are the, maybe what are some areas that we could have, impact if we organize together and build collective power. So I worked in community organizing for a little bit with some immigrant rights groups, also while Trump was president. And then I got into political organizing work to get Trump out of office. So a lot of Donald Trump related things, sadly.
Well,
But
more inspiration, more fire to do things. So
yeah. When I first transitioned into like the political organizing work, I had done another stint back in direct service work and had been working up in an area of Philly called Kensington, which is like one of the most heavily impacted areas, like low poverty or high poverty rates, folks experiencing street homelessness, like some of the highest rates of like drug and alcohol, like fentanyl use, with this opioid crisis that we're experiencing, and a lot of human trafficking as well. And so I was seeing so much of what folks were experiencing and the vulnerabilities and the ways that there wasn't a lot of advocacy for these people. And they kind of were being criminalized more than supported. And so I ended up working for my state rep's reelection campaign, and, talking with her, she was all about safe injection sites, which, would be safe places for folks experiencing this stuff to come to if they were wanted and were ready to deal with their addiction and get support that was going to be available. It would keep needles off of our streets and out of the parks where children are playing. It would be a space of safety, protection, resources, etc. I don't know if people need to hear this, but folks experiencing drug addiction, it's not something that they're choosing or a lack of like their own ability or strength. It's just a hard thing they're going through or have become vulnerable to. And so they need supports and system, like resources in place to be there for that minute that they're like, I'm ready to fight this thing. I'm ready to get out of the hole. And I think anyway, so I was like, okay, I want to work for this person, get her reelected. She's going to work on this stuff. And then we're going to see this in my community. And this is going to help the people that I've been working with. But that's not really, and it didn't happen. That's not how it works. It takes a really long time. And there's a lot of different people involved at different policy levels. So a couple years in of just ended up working towards all of this other electoral work. I think I just was burnt out, overwhelmed, overworked, underpaid, stressed, and started to remember what my original vision was and realized I wasn't really working towards that impact anymore. And so I just needed to get out, and I ended up working at a bagel shop. So I work at a bagel shop right now because I was like, well, I want to feed people and I love food, and I need to learn how to care for me rather than, save the world like the sweet, naive person that I was.
Well, I feel like we all are. But I love that. Yes, I mean, what I like the most is like you give it a try to so many different options that as options, that's the ones that we keep seeing all the time. Yes, it's like social work, like change the rules, help to change the
Mhm.
rules. Maybe that will help too. Um, so how did you ended up now from pizza maker or a pizza delivery or pizza maker?
Pizza delivery. I'm
Pizza
closer to that dream now. It's funny. Yeah.
from pizza delivery to social work to work in the election work
Mhm.
and now to beagle maker,
Mhm.
going into like UX design into tech. Like how these
Yeah.
all came to life.
I think the thing that has stayed true is my desire to help people, to make some positive impact. And I think that I can do that with UX work. Uh, you know, ultimately, we're just trying to improve people's experience in life, in any way. Uh, and I want to be able to have my own like peace, life balance. But I do kind of dream of merging all of these different things I've done and care about, with UX. For example, um, with impacting the policy or like doing research to understand what folks' experiences are and whether that's like their intake forms in a family shelter or at the Office of Supportive Housing when they're first going through that. Like, how are these systems and processes accessible and safe and respectful and empowering, or even going with folks who don't really speak English. Or there were a lot of families coming from Bhutan, for example, and these were older adults. A lot of the time they'd grown up their entire lives in a smaller remote mountain area in Nepal in a camp, and so literacy was sometimes an issue, experience with technology was an issue. So like learning new systems, getting on a train, all these things are really overwhelming. So thinking about how do folks enter into the Social Security office or a hospital or a bus and feel like it's accessible to understand across language barriers, across whatever. Like, do folks feel comfortable? Do they know where to go? Do they know how to ask for help? Like, all these things, like we could just be improving people's experiences and limiting some of these barriers. So that is what I would love to do ultimately. So if anyone knows of any positions or opportunities that I can do that, I would love to do that. But yeah, but in the meantime, I want to get more experience, doing this thing that I studied with my boot camp, and just helping people's lives, even little by little, is fine.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what I came to realization too. Yes, I feel like at one point we wanna like just change the whole world and in an
Right.
instant, or like doing one thing, and that's when you realize that again there are more options, that there are different options, and there are
Yeah.
ones that fit better who we are as a person
Yes.
and the things that we wanted to do. So I feel like I feel like this is a good way. I mean, it happened the same to me. Yes, I knew
Mhm.
that after 10 years of working in retail, my favorite part was always working with people. I got the chance to work with a lot of immigrants. This is their first
Mhm.
job. So for me it was really important for them to grow a lot of skills, like
Yeah.
figuring out who they are, how to be like amazing. Yes, because they're bringing so much knowledge,
Oh my God.
they're bringing so much
Yeah.
experience from their lives. So how to
Yeah.
make it possible here, that was always my really exciting. But again, there is not much that you can do as a store manager, and there is not much that
Mm,
in a company in the retail world can do about these interests. So for me, I think that was kind of uh, the aligning, thinking about values, my values, and how my
yeah.
values align with the companies. Is like I don't want this. I do love people, so
Yes.
um, ended up finding UX too. But how did you ended up hearing about UX? How do you know about it?
Actually, the first time I heard about it was a friend when I first moved into the city, back in 2015, who so this is, I don't know, I don't think they called it UX at the time, but he was doing work on creating an app, a mobile app that would be used for pregnant, soon to be mothers through a specific hospital here, Drexel University and their hospital. And yeah, I was just excited and curious about the work that he was doing. So they were like talking with people about what their needs were and how they could, improve their experience going through the system and getting the care they needed through a mobile app that, like, this was a big new thing at the time. And I was always interested, but I didn't understand much about it, and I didn't explore that. And I was starting my social work career. So, that was that. But a couple of my friends in recent years did the whole, transition careers, started a boot camp, got their jobs doing UX research. And I learned more and more about what they were doing. And I was like, well, I could do that. I love talking to people. I know how to, I could definitely do that. And so, yeah, so I was like, okay, let's try it out. I, looked more into it and into some of the boot camp programs and took a big, scary leap. And yeah,
It's super scary. I mean,
yeah.
I tried this I think 2016. I was searching for something, and I don't know how I ended up coming into UX design. But I think at that point, my life was really comfortable. I knew that I didn't like what I was doing, but I was making good money. I was known in the business. Like, I was not like in a bad space, even though I knew that I didn't want to do this for a while. So I tried UX boot camp or like an online course for like a month, and I'm like, is this like a thing? Can I find a job in this? Looks pretty cool. And
yeah,
but I was not in the right mind space to like really jump into it. So I feel like for you to like do it is it's amazing.
Thanks. Well, wish me luck. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, there's just so much you can do. And like you were saying, like, about, we have to determine like what are the values we have and what's the impact we want to make in the world, because you can help people, you can do good anywhere you are, but deciding like what's the way that you want to show up and what skills do you have to offer that you want to commit to. So what can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Oh, I never get any questions. Okay, sure.
Okay. So yeah, what did push you into, okay, you were like, oh, this is the thing I could do, but what made you decide, yeah, I'm going to go for it and I'm going to move into this other space and change my career?
2019 was the second time that I got laid off. And I think the first time that I got laid off, I was like, okay, this is the moment that I can do something else. But then another good job showed up. And I was like, okay, this looks good. This looks more money. This looks something that maybe it wasn't retail, but it was like in a different company and it could be better. That's a lie. That's a lie. So I stayed there like for less than a year. I couldn't handle it. It was definitely really boring. And I was anyway, ended up going back to what I was used to.
Yeah.
And when I got laid off for the second time, I was like, this is it. I was asking to get laid off after the first time. It's like, oh, if I get laid off again, do it. you know when you put things into the world, and it's like, yeah, exactly. So I got laid off for the second time, and everything was just lined up so well for me. Like, I got laid off. I went into vacation because I have them already booked. And when I was away, it's like, let's do it. Let's just jump into this. Let's just change my life. But I think I was a little more cautious. I went back into thinking, I want to help people. How I can do this? I thought about, oh, I can be a teacher assistant, or I can do art therapy. So I even volunteer for teacher assistant for, like, you need to have at least 40 hours. So I volunteer. And then halfway, I'm like, I cannot do this for more than a year. I
Mm-mm.
love the kids. They're beautiful. They're super cute. That's not the issue. I think it's just doing the same of the same every day and
Mm-hmm.
not seeing yourself growing. And then at one point, it's like, what did I like about being a teacher assistant? Is like those summers off and holidays off. So it's like, okay, so this is not really what I'm looking for as a teacher assistant. It's more about the
Yeah.
time off, not
Right.
job. But then I went back into my idea of UX design, but it's like, let me talk to a lot of people. So I talked to a lot of UX designer in different spaces and in different like company sizes. And they went some to boot camp, some universities, some learned by themselves. So I was seeing if I could do this for a long time. And
Mm.
then when I talked to all of them, it's like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. This sounds like I could get make money. I can get
Mm-hmm.
fun. You can grow. Is something tech is our future, is our present. So
Great.
it's something that you can definitely keep growing and keep learning. And then there you are, boom, boot camp. Yeah, that's it.
And it's crazy that having a job that allows us to have fair pay and time off and balance and creativity and maybe do some good too. Like it's crazy to think that that is such a wild dream for us to have. I should
Yes, I think
be.
so. And I feel like when you find like a space like this, and
Mm,
I think because we have real in common that empowerment of people, like this is the core of who we are. Yes, like, and I
yeah.
keep repeating with everybody that I talk is like my main value in life and why, for example, this podcast exists is to empower people. Yes, when we
Mm,
tell stories like yours or like mine, for people who have seen us and they were in the same situation, they're maybe in the same situations, yes, and thinking, can I do this? I mean, you are in that transition of getting there. That is pretty cool.
sure.
And I feel like he's super amazing that you keep the eyes on the prize where you keep doing bagels. I think this is something that is really powerful. Yeah, it's like you keep working behind a scene and you keep watering your plant while
Mm,
you go and do what you have to do. And I think
yeah.
that's super valuable. Um, so yeah, this is my story.
Mm. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing, and thank you for honestly like encouraging me in this space I'm in too. I feel if you believe in me, I believe in me.
Yeah, totally.
And
And
yeah.
I think, I mean, this is coming from now we're different topic, but I feel like in that moment when you had that seed inside of you, that seed
Mm,
inside of you was there before. Yes, you
yeah.
just start putting water as you start like, oh, what is UX? Ooh, can I do this? And then this is when you start putting water into your set.
Yeah.
Um, and you keep exercising and putting sun and cleaning it and making sure so you are doing the work. I feel like is that's the most important, is like not just wishing for a job, it's like
Hmm.
really putting the work to it. Yes, and I feel like you sharing your story, who you are, what you're passionate about, what you're good at it, like in different spaces, that's this is how you get there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm super excited. Mhm.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. And if anyone else is in this space of job searching and transitioning, yeah, like I'm also working on projects with peers, or I have like a tiny little contract job where I get to do research interviews to get whatever I can to keep gaining the experience and building up those skills. In addition to talking to other people and hearing what their stories and experience are, and getting advice about where to head in all of this.
Yeah,
It's very helpful.
well, okay,
Watering the seed.
watering the seed. Then one day you're going to have this amazing tree that is like, boom, where did it come from? You've been working on it all this time. So, okay, let me come back. Hold on.
Okay.
So, what I like about your story, and when I always have all my guest speakers, is like, where are they coming from? Everything that they have done, yes? Because I
Mm,
feel like this is one of the more powerful things that each of us has, is like our own stories, everything that we have worked on.
mm,
I feel like you've been doing like human-centered design methodology for a while. You just didn't
mm.
know that that was your thing, yes, and that you
Right.
should call it like that. So, what do you think that we can use these outside of design? And I mean, I feel like what have you been doing? how you've been using it so far. Um, and I think what I like about this is, and I think when you become a designer and you know this methodology, and I think you start like using it in everything that you do. Yes, like everything
Yeah.
has a process, and then you start thinking about it. But sorry, I just get anyway, how we can use it to help people.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, you're great. No need to apologize. I love the excitement. Uh, I mean, I think I'm still figuring that out, and there's so many ways, but yeah, like you said, you see it everywhere. I think about the languages things are provided in. I think about the sizing of font on a menu. Um, even the bagel shop I work at, like there's this really long line outside, and I'm like, can't we, maybe we put up little QR codes or something, because people need to see. It's very overwhelming to walk in, and then after waiting in line for so long, and then somebody's right there trying to take your order, and I don't have control over all of that. But yeah, like, what are the ways that we can help people feel a little bit more at ease, feel more invited in, feel welcome, feel safe, all of those things. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have a
No,
great
I feel
answer
like
for the
it's
question.
just that. Yes, I feel like every time that you're seeing like anything, yeah, because it
Mhm.
goes from like service to um, like digital. That is mostly what we do.
Mhm.
But I feel like then this is when we coming back to kind of your social work, and I used to work in immigration, and this is
Yeah.
exactly what we were doing. So is like me as an immigrant moving to a new country. Again, I chose to do this, and I know a lot
Mm.
of people didn't have that choice, and they just has to leave the country because of safeness, and because they don't have options. But I was privileged enough and lucky enough to decide to move to Canada. I was lucky enough to know English, and well, that's a lie. That's a lie. But
I said
I
you
could
probably worked hard to learn English,
study.
but
Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
I mean, I'm still learning, and I'm still not the best. But I could do a podcast in English, so I feel like
Yeah, you
that's
sure can.
good enough. Yeah. Um,
Honestly, just quick pause to just say, look at you.
yes,
You
thank
worked
you.
so hard. That's very impressive. I certainly could not do that in Spanish or any other language.
No, well, that's true. So, I feel like leaving everything behind
Mm.
to then go on to an immigration office or go to online.
Yeah.
And if you go to, I feel like pretty much any government, I mean, there is some websites that are really good. It's really
Mm.
hard to understand anything. Yes, it's really to follow
Mhm.
instruction. It's like, what do I do? So I feel like now, beside that, I'm leaving my whole house, my home, my family, the people that I love, everything that I know behind, and then that's hard.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then
Well,
encounter all these issues is, yeah.
yeah. Well, if I can share another personal story, I just got divorced this last year, and which is, it is a thing for me. It is a positive and growth area in my life, but I consider myself a very well educated person, pretty capable, pretty determined, but I didn't have any money, so I was not paying for a lawyer, and I was figuring out the legal system on my own, and it was unbelievably difficult. There were days I did not think I was going to make it. I was not sure I could continue. But so many people have to go through these legal systems with so many barriers and language that is not accessible or inviting, and like systems in place of, who you can and can't talk to and what advice they can and can't give you because they're not your lawyer, and all of this. Like, it took me several months to go through the entire process. I had to restart it a couple times. Like, it was just unbelievably painful too, because it is an unbelievably painful experience, and ridiculously challenging. And all I could think of was like, why on earth do they make it this hard? Why do they make it this hard? Why is
I
this
mean,
not?
getting married is so easy. I mean, it happened. I was married to and
Mm-hmm.
divorced too. It took me forever to go divorce exactly for the same. Yes, it was so
Yeah.
much. Uh, yes, it was so
Yep.
much. Yeah, and like you were saying, like
Yeah.
not like hiring a lawyer is expensive, but still
Mm-hmm.
doing it by yourself is expensive. It's not that you were saving
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of money.
Yeah. Instead of paying thousands of dollars, I paid maybe $1,000 for all of the court fees and everything, which was still hard. But truly, like I was crying in the courthouse many times, or in the streets. Like, I was just so overwhelmed. I, used whatever resources I could find. And thankfully there were a couple to get some help or go to this law library, but still had to piece together so much on my own. And I don't wish that on anyone. And I'm so sure it doesn't have to be that difficult.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be that difficult. Immigration does not have to be that difficult. Like, getting help doesn't have to be this difficult for any of us. So I want to make it easier.
Yeah, and I think this is like an entryway to how to do it is, but really taking like this consideration is like, oh, it's not just about me. Yes, it's like there are thousands of millions of people that are having the same sentiment and the same pain points and roadblocks. So then you start thinking about, oh, how we can do it better. So you start thinking, what is UX design and what do we do the most? I will tell you, this is exactly what we do. Yes, a lot of people think about like the design world as the main one of UX design, but honestly, it's about like taking upon that pain and trying to use it as how we can solve this. What else we can do? What could be like an easy start to doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, everything's an opportunity, right? Like, it's like, oh, you ran into this problem, great. That is an opportunity for us to improve that experience and to learn more about it.
What I'm really interested now to know, I mean, we've been going through all your life pretty much here, is and I think this is one of the most impactful things for anyone going into a new field. I mean, whatever it is, UX design could be whatever, doing bagels. Yes, doesn't matter. And I feel like it's for anyone to go back into all those experiences and everything that they have done and think, what I'm good at it. And I feel like you told me at the beginning, yes, a little bit. And I feel like sometimes we are so good at it that it's natural. Yes, it's like breathing. It's like, is this even a superpower? Because I do it all the time. But I'm curious to know kind of what are your superpowers, just thinking back on everything that you have done.
Juliet, that's
I
such
know,
a good
sorry, this is not a
question. No,
like out of
I I love it because, of course, I will never want to answer that question or admit that I have superpowers, but I think it is a part of my growth and letting go of some anxieties and building up my own confidence and loving myself, that I can say, yes, I have specific skills that some of these things don't come easy to people, and this is a thing that I can do. And so but how do I word that? I think that, I guess sort of what I said in the beginning. I think curiosity is one of my superpowers. I think storytelling is one of my superpowers. I love both talking to people and sharing about my experience, but also learning and asking questions. So, I have to ask you questions too about your life and your experience. I think that I am good at talking to people and having them feel comfortable to open up. And so that just helps me understand so much more. And I know I'm very determined too. I don't give up easily. So if there's a problem I can't solve, I will figure out how to solve it, or who I can talk to figure out how to solve it. Those are my superpowers.
I will say that this is, and I feel like, again, for a lot of people going into the field, I feel like this is the core of, I mean, I will talk about my experience, what I do. Yes, this is it. I'm not talking about like Pixel Perfect. And if you saw like Config this weekend, there is a lot of things that Figma is bringing us to you to help us in our design world. But honestly, that's exactly what I do every single day. I feel like this week we have a release soon. And that means that everything has to run perfectly, that everything has to look great. And yes, I make sure that it looks like in Figma, and I talk to the developers. But honestly, is like talking with the developers and how I express this and how I share this information. That's the most important part. Yes, it's not like
Yeah.
change this, change that. Like before we talking even about what we can improve, I talk about with them about their
Mhm.
days, how was their weekend, and I feel like building that connection with people and with everybody on the team is going to be one of those superpowers that a lot of
Mhm.
people don't pay attention. And I feel like uh, for you to be able to say, yes, that's my superpower and sharing it with people is going to be really important. Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the hard part at one point. Yes. It's like, oh, I'm so good at talking to people. It's not that we talk like this. Yes.
Mhm.
So I feel like the storytelling and how you said it and how you again come back to your past experience and demonstrate
Mhm.
it because you have done it is going to be really powerful, and I think anyone will be super lucky to have you. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Um, yeah, I mean, well, I to your point about like, I just want to shout this out to anybody who needs to hear this reminder. It's so important to have connection and relationship with the people that we work with, whether you're working in a bagel shop or at a big tech company or anywhere. Like, it's so easy for us to get siloed into the work that we have to do. Like, I have to do this and they're responsible for this and they're not doing it. And so now I'm frustrated or mad or bitter or anything. Like, that is not helpful. Understanding the person as a whole, what's going on for them, like how can we support or like lean on each other's strengths and whatnot. Like, it's so important. And we're all going to be way more successful and feel happier and more fulfilled in the work that we're doing too, if we can feel like we're a part of a team rather than isolated and just producing something.
Yeah.
So
I'm
yeah.
going to say something PC.
Yeah.
Dream work is, oh no, I said that right. Dream work is dream work. Oh my goodness, I mix it up. But
Yes.
yes, it's true. It's
Teamwork
totally
makes the
true.
dream
And I
work.
feel like it's how to be really aware about this and
Yeah.
how to use it. Again, this being my superpower since day one. And I feel like when I started to working on my first job and they said, oh my goodness, you're so good. You have so much experience. It's like, sure. But again, it was my superpower that I was like lining up for me and making what I do better. And
Yeah.
that's when I start realizing, wow, this is what I should lead when I'm going networking, when I'm talking to people. Or like you were saying, when you're talking to your customers, even if like it's in your bagel shop or it's like
Yeah.
whatever job that you do, you never know. I will tell you, you never know who are you talking with and um, how you're sharing the joy of whatever you need to share is going to be a big impact. Okay,
Mm.
I have a question here
Okay.
from Daniel. Daniel has been waiting for this answer for a while. So,
Right.
okay. So Daniel's saying, I have a question. I just finished a boot camp last week in Accra, Ghana, where I majored in UI UX. What are some common challenges or roadblocks that UX designers face, and how do you overcome them? Overcome them, yes.
Mm. Big question. First, I just want to say congratulations, Daniel. I know that was a lot of work. Great job. You did it. It's that part is done. Now you get to begin the rest. Oh. What do you think, Juliet? What's big challenges? Such a
Um, Big challenges. Daniel, is this a challenging like looking for a job or while I'm in the job market or when I'm like working on
yeah.
my company? Because maybe we can talk about like just finishing the boot camp and I think it
Mm-hmm.
happened to me is like, is I'm good for this? I'm cut
Mm,
out for finding a job. Does anyone want me? I feel
yeah.
like the like imposter syndrome is a big
Yes.
one, and I will say that will never leave you. I feel like I was just thinking about this, and I think as I was watching the Figma conference config, it's like wow, people is just so good. Yes, like you see them talking and talking about the projects that they have
Yeah.
worked on, and it's like wow, I will never be this good. Yes, that's the
Mm.
first thing that comes to your mind. And I'm like, hold
Yep.
on, Juliet.
Pause.
Hold on your horses. Yes. So it's like for me, I think that was a big learning and a big way to step it up. And even landing that first job is like going through my thoughts and it's like, do I really believe this? Is this
Mm-hmm.
a thing that is a core in me, or is it something that society has
Yep.
put in my head? So I feel like that's a big one. How do you feel about imposter syndrome?
Oh, it's a devil in all of us. It really tries to get you. Um, I was gonna say the thing that I think has kept me sane in this whole process of job searching post boot camp is just giving myself grace and permission to exist each day. So, okay, today I had motivation and interest to fill out these job applications. Great, that's what I did. Tomorrow, maybe I am not feeling that. Maybe I am really struggling to be motivated. Okay, I need to take care of myself. How can I feed myself? How can I take care of other things in my life that will make me feel rejuvenated or energized to do it tomorrow? Or not being alone and isolated too. So I work with just a group of other people who also graduated on a project. So it's like we have weekly stand-ups and we have a thing to come together to, and accountability on this thing we want to do and keep developing our skills rather than just getting lost in isolation by myself. Yeah. And then, the comparison game doesn't help any of us. It, it does not. Some people are great at some things, others are great at others. Daniel, whatever your superpower is, that's what you need to like lean into and learn, and then just celebrate, because yeah, there are things that you are excellent at that I'm not excellent at, and you bring that specific thing, and that's great. So it's not fruitful to do the comparison game.
Never. We never know where people is coming from and what everybody has done in their life. So I think we have all unique stories, and that's again what make us unique is who we are and our
Mm-hmm.
stories and nothing else. So that's a big one. I love this, and I feel like you just mentioned Daniel again. Is just confirming. Just finishing boot camp and looking for a job. I don't have that much in my portfolio, and I think you mentioned something really powerful, and it's like I this is how I call it, is like, what else are you doing? Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
everybody is applying to jobs, everybody is networking, everybody's going to job fairs, so what else are you doing? And I feel like these project and kind of going to the agile world as a designer and
Mm-hmm.
kind of getting that experience, that's experience even if it's not paid. Like I feel like a lot
Right.
of people confuse these two things. uh, Non-paid experience as like a passion project, something that you're
Mm-hmm.
again passionate about. This counts as
Yeah.
experience, and this is really important, mostly because it's something that you're created of nothing. Again, I don't like
Mm-hmm.
your little seed that you didn't know that exists because you were creating it. So
Yep.
I feel like this is really important to create projects. Be
Yeah.
surrounded people, like-minded people. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and like you can do the daily design challenges and stuff like that. Great, absolutely. Keep developing your skills, whatever area you want. But also, like, yeah, what is a thing you really care about? Because I see people, it's totally great to practice your skills in any way, shape, or form. But I see a lot of people coming up with a project that they don't even really care about. They're just doing it to do it. I'm like, well, what's a thing? What's a pain point in your life or people's lives that you care about that you can address? So my group is working on an app for food service workers that would be all about both like transparency and working conditions and job searching. So it's kind of like people could share ratings and reviews of shops they work at, or share if there's a new availability at the place they're working at, so people can like build community and share networking and stuff like that, no matter where you are. So it's yeah, what these are things that I just have heard stories about in my community and my coworkers and peers. So it's a thing that I was like, okay, let's explore this more. I want to understand more of the pain points and frustrations and think about what are some solutions. So whatever is the thing you care about, great, follow that and create something.
Yeah, I love it, and I feel like this is going to be really linked to looking for a job.
Mm,
I feel like if you apply for a job that is like, oh yeah, this is a job and I need a job. Let's go
mm,
and talk to these people about it. And when you're talking about their project or their organization, you are like, oh yes, this is really cool. But then if you go to a company organization where you like dream about them and your
Yep.
eyes like pop with little hearts, they're going to get excited and they're like, oh my goodness, we want this person working with
Mhm.
us. Not just because you're a designer, or because you have maybe experience that they're looking for, but because they know that people who is passionate and people who are
Mhm.
excited about something, they will go the extra mile and they will feel like at home. So I feel like that's such an important thing to consider when looking for a job. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's, to all the recruiters out there, the best advice I've heard from other people is hire people that are the people you want to work with, not people that already know how to do the job, because you can teach anybody anything. So hire somebody that is going to learn and show up and care and give their best effort and be excited and passionate, even if they
And I
don't have
feel
the
like going back to, I feel like this is now we're like in a different podcast today, but I feel like when you're thinking about like soft skills,
Yep.
these ones we've been working in these soft skills like for a
Mhm.
long time, and these ones are going the ones who are going to be a little more hard to teach, if maybe
Mhm.
impossible. So just keep showing up those as again as your superpower. Okay,
Yeah. All right.
finish up because we are putting this into the world. Where like if you can dream in a job like an organization, how do
Mm.
it look like? We're calling it. We're
Okay.
calling it there. Okay, say it.
Manifesting this. Yeah, I would love to work with an organization that is improving the lives of people that are experiencing like real barriers. Um, I hope nobody's. I don't care about e-commerce. I just don't. I don't. What I care about is, yeah. I mean, gosh. Well, there was this one job that I was excited about that I applied for, and I don't know what they're doing, but anyway. But it is this is the type of thing I would love to do. So I will speak this and manifest anything related. It is specifically focused on innovation and research around queer experiences. So they consult with organizations that maybe want to create a more queer inclusive culture or improve the policies or create an app for trans folks or whatever. And so like helping folks strategize, understand, do research, develop a plan on how to address some of those needs. That's a thing I would love to do. That would be amazing.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
coming out there. Yes. I feel like next time that we're going to talk, you're going to say, Juliet, guess what?
I will definitely let you know if and
Yes,
when I get a job. Yeah.
definitely. Okay. April, this was so good. Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
understandable and for joining me and making pasta with me, even though I'm not doing anything. Not even eating the pasta, but this was so good, and I'm so excited for what is coming into your career. So thank you so much for sharing your whole life with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and for anyone who's listening. It's been lovely to talk about and very encouraging, and I'm feeling hopeful and hungry. So,
Yes. Okay. And for all of those who are celebrating Pride, thank you so much for joining us. You celebrate Pride in whatever feels comfortable for you. We
Mhm.
support you and we love you and we see you. So see you next week. Oh, next week I have two podcasts to finish it up. The Pride edition, like with two people. So again, join
Awesome.
me and thank you everybody. Have a great weekend.